at 10, Sinister Turmoil, Sewers. Sinister Turmoil was planned to be a full-release game. However, the full game never really came to fruition. Mangle was planned to be the main antagonist of the game, where they were using the name Prototype Foxy. However, while the whole game wasn't released, we managed to get Sinister Turmoil Sewers instead, which is a snippet of what the main game would have looked like. In the game, you are trying to escape a Freddy Fazbear amusement park when your friend says to escape through the sewers. However, when you enter, you realize that Mangle has been set loose in the sewers, which leads me to believe that your friend is up to some fishy business. Perhaps he is William Afton. The game from then on is very reminiscent of the corn maze from the Curse of Dreadbear DLC. I've played through that minigame and the two are very similar. In Sinister Turmoil, which did come out first, there's a cupcake that follows you around, and if you don't look at it for long enough, it decides it's going to scream like a child, and it will alert Mangle to your location. In Corn Maze, there are clusters of crows on the ground in random places, where if you step on them, they scare the hell out of you and alert Foxy to your location. By the way, that's the worst part of that game. It's terrifying. The main antagonists of the game are versions of Foxy, Mangle in Sinister Turmoil, and Grim Foxy in Corn Maze. I think someone got their ideas elsewhere, Scott. In at 9, Five Nights at Candy's. Five Nights at Candy's is the first in the series of 5 Candy's games that include 4 main titles and then a final remastered version of the first one. After Freddy Fazbear's closed for good, it's clear that the stage was set, no pun intended, for another contender in children's entertainment. So Candy's decided to take their shot. What could go wrong? The gameplay is similar to that of FNAF. However, you have the added ability of having night vision in the cameras, and they added a 3rd floor in the form of an office window, which adds more complexity and difficulty to the gameplay. The first game includes 13 characters, including the beloved phone guy, obviously a different one, but we all love the phone guy, and the main title character of Candy with her merry band of animatronic killers. Cindy, Blank, Chester, the Penguin, damn it Batman, I thought you had dealt with him, Old Candy, the Rat, Vinny, Shadow Cat, Origami Cat, and the Easter egg Markiplier animatronic. Who do you think the king of FNAF is? Let me know below. It's MatPat. Come on. And at 8, The Joy of Creation. The Joy of Creation is for sure one hell of a clever name. T-Jock has a unique viewpoint because you play as the one and only Danny DeVito. Sorry, I meant Scott Cawthon. Autocorrect. Created by Nixon, the story is set after Scott ended the Five Nights series. After he does, however, the animatronics start attacking him because they want to take what he took from them, their lives, in the form of the games. After the production of another game was cancelled, the game transitioned into The Joy of Creation Reborn. The game has several modes, including the original survival mode and a newly added story mode. The game features ignited versions of the old animatronics, and they look straight up terrifying. This is one of the scariest games on the list, and the story mode is the most terrifying game mode out of all of them by far. Even looking at the trailer gives me the heebie-jeebies. In its 7-weekend demo, he knows you're in here. He remembers you. Shadows of the distant past will drive you insane, just like they did to him. Greetings, I'm glad you've chosen to work here at Purple Shore's warehouse. Your job as a security guard here will likely be a fairly easy one. The game is only a demo and the full release has been in production for over 4 years, so I'm assuming it's going to be staying that way. Don't get me wrong, games take a long time to make, but if it's a fan game, it shouldn't be in production for so long, especially when the last update to the demo was over 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean, the game itself is scary as hell, however, with more cameras and even more locations to find these animatronics. You'll be confused as hell as to where they're coming from, which is probably not a good thing, and you should look to your right because there's a door that the animatronics keep coming through, just like move your mouse. Yeah, that took Markiplier an unreasonable amount of time to figure out. But I mean, if you haven't played, how are you supposed to know? Flashback to your comments on the Lasagna Boy gameplay, and I literally had to like search up what I was supposed to do in that video, and then we just had to cut back to when I had figured it out, like controlling the missiles. Yeah, I had to look it up, and I wouldn't be surprised if Markiplier had to look it up too. And in 6, Final Nights 3, Nightmares Awoken. Final Nights is absolutely terrifying. If you haven't seen Top 10 Scariest FNAF Animatronics, the first part, go check it out because I talk about Reaper Puppet and it's one of the scariest animatronics in that whole series, but also in the whole like FNAF world, even including the fan games. Like, oh my god. I said that the Reaper Puppet looks like a weird version of Jeff the Killer, and I'm not wrong. The whole series is populated by messed up versions of the original animatronics, like Withered Toy animatronics and the Reaper animatronics like I mentioned earlier, which are the ones appearing in the 3rd game alongside the Reaper Puppet. And Reaper Balloon Boy looks like something I've actually seen in my nightmares before I've ever heard of these games. The 3rd game in the series, which is the one I'm most familiar with, has you literally staying in your hospital room when the animatronics attack, which is incredibly rude. Like, come on, man, I'm recovering. But you're still going to invade my personal space like that? Well, yes, in that game you need to survive until morning. Time doesn't actually move if you're awake. You actually need to sleep in order to make any progress, which means that you're going to be leaving yourself vulnerable to attacks. It's an incredible game mechanic, and with terrifying animatronics, it's an interesting way that the series could have gone. But if it went this way, oh man, I'd be playing it a lot more. Halfway through number 5, Five Nights at Wario's. This game is in a similar vein to Five Nights at Sonic's, and while Sonic may feature characters from both Sonic and Mario, Five Nights at Wario's only focuses on the Nintendo spectrum of characters. The game's loading screen is horrifyingly awkward. The faces of Wario and Luigi are just all kinds of wrong. However, the game also plays exactly the same as FNAF. Like, even Scott Cawthon was able to find ways to mix things up. And while FNAF World may not have been a terrible success, I found myself loving the Danger Keep Out minigame in the Curse of Dreadbear DLC.
I can't reset the power until Chica's gone. I've reset Chica. Oh. Come on, go. Reset, come on.
The game plays exactly like the original FNAF, and it's why everyone dislikes it. If you wanted to play FNAF, you could just play FNAF. And like I said, sure, you can make a good game if you use the same mechanics like FNAF, but FNAF also has their own animatronics, their own characters. But with Five Nights at Wario's, you are literally just fighting against other famous characters like Wario, Waluigi, Mario, Luigi, and Peach. If you had made your own, I would have enjoyed it, but you didn't. So that's why you're on this list. And at 4, Bonnie Simulator 2. Ever wanted to kill kids? Okay, ever wanted to kill kids in video games? Well, how about killing a security guard while you travel instantaneously from camera to camera while he tries to survive? Well, if the latter tickled your fancy, you probably wanted to play as an animatronic. Well, in the series of animatronic simulator games, you play as one specific animatronic. In Bonnie Simulator 2, you play as either Toy Bonnie or Withered Bonnie in the FNAF 2 location, where you travel from camera to camera trying to attack the guard. However, they made the game more difficult, so the guard is pretty smart and is actually good at the game. They should have like difficulties where you like fight against YouTubers, you know, like a Markiplier difficulty, a Daco difficulty, MadPat, you know. The big FNAF YouTubers should be difficulties. I don't think it's in production anymore, but if someone wants to do it, be my guest, that idea is free. And at 3, A Shadow Over Freddy's. A Shadow Over Freddy's is a short point-and-click exploration horror game that showcases free roam gameplay, but keeps to the tableau-esque style of the FNAF series. Fun fact, in grade 10 I took drama class. Oh yeah, surprising. And for the final exam presentation, we had to pick a theme. We had multiple gamers in the group, so we picked video games, of course, and we had a segment for FNAF, where we had me photoshopped to be Golden Freddy. Like, basically I just wore yellow and put ears on. And the other members of the group were other animatronics, and Owen was playing the night guard on stage. Then I snuck behind the whole class and screamed when I popped out on screen. It was fun. Anyways, this game has you roaming around the FNAF 1 pizzeria while you have different objectives each night as you try to find a way out of this accursed restaurant. You don't have cameras, doors, or time on your side, only the requirement to complete your objective. Plus, this game is in black and white, making it even scarier when you think about it. It's really unsettling, and free roam is something that we haven't seen in other FNAF games, not even Help Wanted, so, well done. Well done. And at 2, Super FNAF. Remember FNAF World? Yeah, I wish I didn't either. However, if you were to try and play through FNAF 57 Freddy in Space in a 16-bit pixelized version, would you do it? I think we all know that that's the best FNAF game in the series. Super FNAF is a 16-bit platformer game released on October 23rd, 2016, and it tries to pay homage to the original FNAF world where it drew its inspiration. There's an arcade mode, a story mode, a free play mode, side quests, and so much more. But there isn't a secret objective to gather clocks and set up clues for the real world for you to discover in FNAF 3. Wait, what if there is and just no one's discovered it yet? No, it doesn't exist. However, it would give the game some replay value, just trying to find it over and over again. The story mode contains 6 nights and has you guiding the original animatronics through the FNAF 1 pizzeria in platforming fun that will remind you of the classic Super Mario and FNAF combined. Definitely try it out, even if you don't like platformers, because it's FNAF, and we all love FNAF. Finally, and at number 1, Pop Goes. A story based on the first 3 FNAF games, Pop Goes, like many others, is about a competitor and successor in a way to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. A year after the fire at Fazbear Fright, a rich and creative inventor in England, only known as Fritz, has taken the role of continuing the animatronic pizza brand with its own restaurant called Pop Goes Pizzeria. They had extremely advanced robotics, but nothing like possessed animatronics walking around because they had kids stuffed inside them and then their souls got infused with their bodies, thus creating soul metal remnant. Yeah, nothing like that. This pizzeria was far ahead of its time. 3 3D printers in every room, and touchscreen devices for the kids. It was a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, but better and without the child murder we all expect. But Fritz never built the place for the customers. He built it for himself. And as a night guard, you're part of the scheme. So let's get started and help Fritz out. Some observant viewers may have noticed that the name Fritz seems fairly familiar. It was actually the name that Mike used in the first FNAF game, and it was the name of the child who got stuffed into Foxy, as we know from the gravestone ending and it being in the same position of the good ending in FNAF 3. What could this man be doing? Is his name actually Fritz? Does he know Fritz? Is he related to Fritz? You'll have to play it yourself to find out. It's at Five Nights at Krusty Krab. Mr. Krabs just opened a brand new Krusty Krab location in the city. Gotta love Mr. Krabs with that hustle. Go man, make the Krusty Krab a franchise. However, the location is staffed completely by animatronic versions of old employees. I guess it was cheaper than paying them. You're hired as the night watchman at this location. However, strange things begin to happen when the lights dim, and you find yourself in a bit more trouble than you had originally anticipated. I've talked about this game's sequel Five Nights at Chumbucket before, and the full release version of Five Nights at Krusty Krab has one hell of a game. This game includes animatronic versions of SpongeBob, Squidward, Patrick, Sandy, Mr. Krabs, and while they may not all be employees of the Krusty Krab, they were at one point. Also, it turns out that the Krusty Krab pizza is the pizza for you and me, because there are plenty of pizza boxes scattered all around the facility. But that also means that Robot SpongeBob isn't doing his job, but again, that's strangely normal for SpongeBob robots. Does anyone remember the one Plankton built? In the end, everyone forgets about the restaurant, aside from the one who came for revenge. But you'll have to play it to figure out who it is and what they did. In a 9 Five Nights at Minecraft map. This Minecraft map is a full recreation of the first 5 FNAF game maps. The FNAF locations are here, including Sister Location and the FNAF 4 house. However, the FNAF 6 location is not done. The map includes texture packs for all the locations featured, making sure you are able to see the different animatronics, and they even include some Easter eggs. Some of which are weird, like the one called No Poop, but others are interesting and would have lore implications, like the puppet being in the FNAF 1 location, among others. The maps, in all honesty, are extremely well constructed, except for the FNAF 4 house. I don't think that's how the house would have been laid out. I mean, we don't even see the wonderful hallways with the grandfather clock. I think it may have been more so based on the layout from the mini games, but I mean, that might be wrong. The ability to free roam is something that I think we would all enjoy in a FNAF game, especially if it was a working pizzeria and not just one filled with spooks. Like, I'm telling you, William Afton Simulator. Let me kill kids in a working pizza place. Please, Chuck E. Cheese won't let me back. Implying I'm a murderer. And it ain't One Night at Flumpty's too. Once again, Flumpty, Bumpty, and his pals have kidnapped you, a presumably innocent civilian, to play a game of survival hide-and-seek. The rules are simple. Make it until 6 AM and you and Flumpty become besties. If someone catches you, they'll give you a brand new face. However, there are some rules, like any regulation game of hide-and-seek, but you only learn them as the night goes on. You only have a light switch, a computer with a limited battery, and a switch to close the vents, but you can only close one at a time. Can you survive against Flumpty Bumpty and his merry crew of Birthday Boy Blam, the Red Man, Eyesore, Grunkfuss the Clown, the Beaver, Golden Flumpty? They all make an appearance. But this time there is an added threat of Champ and Chump, horrifying, bloody and fleshy creatures with no arms and bloodshot eyes. They're the size of about the mini-renas. Basically, it's a mini-rena with muscle fibers and blood covering the body without the arms. Yeah, it's creepy. And at 7, One Night at Flumpty's. The game drill description for this game is, the game is an inside joke. There's no backstory, no meaningful undertones, nothing to theorize about. It's just for fun, so have fun. And after dealing with this series for 7 years, we know that there is always a story. There's always something to theorize about, okay? We just know it. This wonderful fan game includes characters such as Flumpty Bumpty, Birthday Boy Blam, the Red Man, Eyesore, Grunkfuss the Clown, which is the real Eyesore, the Beaver, Golden Flumpty, and the Owl. The game plays similarly to FNAF, with relatively similar mechanics. However, there's a hole in the wall where Grunkfuss the Clown can pop out of, and the game appears as if it's all hand-drawn, which can make the game appear slightly less terrifying, but it also makes it more personal and can give you more of a personal connection to the game if that's what you're looking for. And if you want to theorize about it, I'm sure that there's something you can. There's gotta be something to be found, right? We need to get like a community together to form theories for these games. It has to happen. We gotta connect all the FNAF fan games to the lore, somehow. Please. Please. Set up a Discord. And at 6, Five Nights at Candy's 3. FNAF 3 was intended to be the ending to the FNAF series, until, like Springtrap and Scott Cawthon, it came back with FNAF 4. However, unlike FNAF 3, FNAF 3 was actually the beginning of the story as well as the end, since it was a prequel to Five Nights at Candy's 1. While yes, the animatronics and jump scares will give you a fright, the real meat of this game comes from the mini-games and cutscenes you get that really beef up the lore and give not only the game, but the whole series context as a whole. However, you will truly be horrified when you see these animatronics. Old Candy, the Rat, Vinny, Shadow Candy, Candy the Cat, Monster Vinny, Origami Cat, Lollipop. The whole game is extremely well made, and it really shows why this series is so popular, and why it's one of the most popular FNAF fan games to date. If FNAF wasn't over and it was going to get a sequel, what would you like to see? I personally would like to see a VR, but I understand that it's hard to do that with like a fan game. These animatronics in VR would just be horrifying. The Rat is by far one of the scariest animatronics I've seen in this game, and if it was not for the Reaper puppet from Final Nights, it would be the scariest game. Speaking of Final Nights, halfway through and at 5, Dormitabus. Dormitabus is one hell of a name change. After flames consumed you, you soon realize that you woke up in a place you can't identify. How are you alive? Didn't you just burn to death in Fazbear Fright? Your confusion, however, turns into fear when you notice you have a mission. You need to save the dead. But the dead you're trying to save aren't really friendly, and they're your old friends. The game expands on the lore of FNAFs 1 to 4, but excludes Silver Eyes and Sister Location as the game was planned before these were released. The game takes the animatronics we know, love, and our pants at, and twists them into something you would only recognize if you knew what they looked like before. They even resurrect Springtrap in the form of Garvey, who is even more wrecked than before, and I don't mean like riggedy wrecked, I mean like torn up to bits. And the most iconic thing they did are the Havoc animatronics. They're all mangled forms of other terrifying animatronics, and oh boy, they're horrible. You honestly just need to see it for yourself. You play as John Wright, a man responsible for Springtrap's mental deterioration, making him partially responsible for whatever he has done. He's also meant to be the protagonist from FNAF 3. Keep in mind that this was all before the big lore reveals of the series, so you can forgive him for that. And at 4, Fazbear's Fright. Long after Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed down, Fun Frights Inc. created a horror attraction built to show off the tragic history of Fazbear Entertainment. Rude. Old diner locations have been searched for props, in which it appears that they have all been fixed up for some sort of Halloween-themed area. The location is nearly ready to open. Be sure you get your tickets now. You play in the original Freddy Fazbear location, where you now have more threats than ever before, employee combinations on the keypad, vents to keep you on your toes, and so many animatronics that you'll lose your mind even more. This is not to be confused with Fazbear Fright from the third FNAF game. This is an entirely separate company that is essentially making a museum dedicated to Freddy Fazbear and the tragic events that occurred, which is rude. Hella rude. Maybe this is why they needed to get their reputation back in Hell Wanted. Sure, it's because of Scott, but also because companies like Fun Frights Inc. make jokes about their tragic history too. Also, I know that it's not technically Scott in the games, but like, the character he's playing hasn't been named yet, so I'm gonna keep calling him Scott until he gets named. Getting close to the end of number 3, 5 Dank Nights at Memes. Look, considering how every time I try to say this title I say 5 Nights at Dank Memes instead of the actual title should speak for itself. While yes, the game is bad, it somehow managed to get itself 2 sequels, one of which is still in the works to my knowledge. There's a phone guy call that is literally a robot reading the same night one phone call that you get in FNAF. Plus, the doors are just red and gray boxes that say Meme Door and Big Meme Door on them. Oh, also it's on Scratch. The cameras are inaccessible as far as I could tell, and the fact that Shrek is the one who killed me is sad. And he only killed me because there was a delay between opening the doors and then closing them again, which isn't present in the normal game. While yes, you made a game and it's impressive, you took no care in making the game good. If you had a little more concentration or devotion and had tried this again, it may have been good, but it's also available on Scratch and there is no good FNAF games on Scratch. And number 2, Jolly 3. This is a unique game in the way it's presented. All these games are unique, and something can't be especially unique because being unique means that you are one of a kind and you can't be especially one of a kind. But anyway, this game presents itself in 2 chapters, each of them basically being their own game. Chapter 1 is very reminiscent of Sister Location, with more complicated game mechanics and the feeling of being scooped, but Chapter 2 has more of an original FNAF feel. Each chapter has between-night mini-games that help break up the monotony of gameplay, and keeps you on your toes to make sure you don't get too good at the cycle of just like hitting the buttons, you know? It breaks the cycle. You're welcome. If you get it, you get it. The jump scares seemingly come from nowhere, and oh yeah, it turns out this game's characters and name are based on a Filipino version of Denny's called Jubilee. Yeah, a freaking bee animatronic. Anyone allergic to bees, honey, or pollen better get the hell out of here. And I'm allergic to pollen, so next number. Finally, in at number 1, Baby's Nightmare Circus. When first playing, Baby's Nightmare Circus will remind you of FNAF 4, and for very good reasons. Because of Baby being used, since you know she scooped Michael Afton's sister up, and due to the similar looking title screen and the way you move around the circus being essentially the same as FNAF 4. You look at the ground and then you run, which is how I run everywhere. Oh, and the jump scares will make you lose your mind. The Nightmare Ballora is one of the most confusing things I have ever seen. Like, should I be scared? Should I be aroused? Why am I aroused? Is looking at this thing wrong? Why is she so thick? Should I be concerned with my well-being? And at 10, Five Nights at Boys. What the actual living hell is this game? Five Nights at Boys is a series of FNAF fan games made by using RPG Maker, so obviously not following the same principles as the original games. And it's a very crude take on the franchise that has you battling against party favors and recruiting other animatronics to join your team like a messed up version of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. The ultimate goal of the game is to defeat all security cameras and then defeat the final boss, and clearly it has an entirely different tone than the other games. The first game is based on the original FNAF, but introduces characters from the second like Toy Animatronics, Balloon Boy, and the Puppet. The second game is based on FNAF 2, with Toy Freddy being the main protagonist, and the third is based on FNAF 3, with Springtrap and Golden Freddy as playable characters. The games also have a final mixed version with a new story and updated content and balancing. The creators of F-Boys were fans of Golden Freddy's debauchery simulator, so aspects of those games have been covered as well. What? What? Oh my god. And at 9, Five Nights at Ripley's. Mostly known as Space Seclusion, the gameplay is like FNAF meets Alien Isolation, and it doesn't work. The animations for the alien itself are just way too human. It definitely wouldn't walk like that. And that's what makes the game feel less scary. The free roam mechanic is interesting, but it's not really going to help anyone when you're supposed to be watching the cameras to see where the alien is going. The game doesn't tell you the controls and tries to set itself up to be such a big and fun experience because it has infinite levels that just keep getting harder. But that to me seems like lazy game development. Infinite levels with increasing difficulty is like mobile game design. Having things get difficult and then adding new features should be the way to do it. Just because there are infinite nights doesn't make it not a FNAF clone with an Alien Isolation twist. And the name, Space Seclusion. Really? Talk about not creative, you just opened up the thesaurus and then found a synonym for isolation. And where do the aliens live? Space. And at 8, Five Nights at Weed. Created by a super Christian, which I think is ironic in and of itself, the only video on GameJolt page is called I Love You, and it's just a crappy doll stop motion, and the only description of this game is a link to a couple of the sounds used in the game. The comments on the game are atrocious. Aside from people legit commenting first comment 2018 and first comment 2019, people are saying the game doesn't work and you can't do anything. They also are having viruses, as one of the commenters says. These comments are worse than the ones in the other FNAF videos hating on us for misgendering a robot. Like, it's literally a robot, who cares? They say the game isn't completable and that there is no point in playing it, and I'll take their comments as fact, because apparently even PewDiePie played this and couldn't get it to work. I don't want to give my computer some virus that's going to cause it to have to stay in its case for the next month and a half. Topical. And at 7, Five Nights at Chum Buckets. Five Nights at the Chum Bucket is the official sequel to Five Nights at the Krusty Krab. And while it may be a sequel, the story is by far darker and more haunting than the first. After the Krusty Krab was burned down, the player is the only survivor, and he gets kidnapped by a business official who wants to cover up the incident and leave no witnesses. When you wake up, you find yourself trapped inside the security room of the Chum Bucket. During the first and second night, the businessman discovers that there is another survivor who is trying to save you, so he thinks that if he lets him try, he can kill you both. You must survive 6 nights of animatronic onslaught as you wait for your survivor. You must survive 6 nights of animatronic onslaught as you wait for your savior. This game features several iconic characters like SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Sandy, and even Karen, but she's talking to the manager the whole time. They also have phantoms, and that's pretty dope. These characters, however, are all animatronic, making them under the control of the businessman and basically mass murderers. I mean, they're like the gorilla from that one episode. And at 6, Five Nights at Sonic's. Look, it's hard to make a game, no arguments. However, it's even harder to make a good game on Scratch. But the amount of Five Nights at Sonic games there are on Scratch hurts me on a deep level. I've talked about Five Nights at Sonic's before on another fan games list, but the thing is, it's not different from FNAF. The gameplay is exactly the same, if not a little clunkier, and the only thing that's different is the animatronics. They aren't even modeled, they're made to look 3D, they're just static. And while I understand what it takes to make a game, the rest of the FNAF fan base, or at least the majority, doesn't. So, they're complaining that the only way to make a good FNAF game is to add something new, but I disagree. You can have a good fan game that plays similarly to FNAF. Take Five Nights at Candy's for example. However, their graphics are on par if not better than the original FNAF. But a game like Joy of Creation Story Mode is a great game because it adds something new. If you want to make a great FNAF fan game, take your time with it. Have good graphics and craft a good story. Make your own characters and then you find something new to add into the mix and then boom, you're golden. Do something like just draw all the characters flatly with no shading and then use some of the same mechanics from FNAF 2 and it can't be good. And it definitely won't be. Just like my grammar. And at 5, Dormitabus. I know you guys were saying that I'm saying that wrong, but I don't know how to say it normally, so. Faced with dangerous robotic abominations, the player has to survive 10 nights of terror and panic, while all you have to defend yourself is a rusty old desktop and your own reflexes. You are challenged by a whole host of robotic monstrosities, but the thing is, they used to be your friends. Who are you? Where are you? And what the hell is going on? You'll just have to figure that one out yourself. The reason I found out about this game is because of a Reddit thread that said that this game had one hell of a messed up story, but they didn't really use that language. They used more vulgar language. The story of the game should be discovered for yourself, so I'm not going to spoil it. But the game ties itself into the lore of the first 4 FNAF games, not including Sister Location or the Silver Eyes because they hadn't been announced when this game was released. But I mean, they should have expected it because Scott releases a new game like every other month. Well, not anymore. He used to. We remember the days. And at 4, the worst FNAF World game ever made. The funny thing about this title is that it's basically just FNAF World. Boom! Roasted! But actually, though, the game is literally the worst FNAF World game. The screen is split into the full screen game and then another version of the exact same thing, taking up a quarter of your screen in the top left. The ability to focus on that corner is lost to me, and I don't want to have to touch this game with a 10-foot pole. The game gets stuck on a new item screen for like 5 minutes and then it's just basically FNAF World, which is really illegal and does not fall under fair use since the damn thing isn't different enough. It's not like if the game has bugs and then you fix them, it's a different game. Unless it's Skyrim, because if it's Bethesda, it's not a bug, it's a feature. But still, fixing bugs or making more content doesn't change the contents of the game, and therefore the game is highly illegal. It's only at number 4 because it will get worse from here. Bear with me. These next few are laughable. And at 3, Fredbear and Friends Reboot. Are you crazy? Are you daring? Are you looking for thrills in places nobody else will go? Well, if that sounds like you, Fredbear and Friends Reboot is gonna tickle your fancy like a dove feather because even though Freddy's has been closed for 26 years, the building has been abandoned ever since. The place that once brought joy and happiness is now growing vines and smells like rot. Kinda like my ex. So what should you do? Meet up with your friends and investigate, of course. The thing is, plans aren't always executed properly. As the great Leonard Snart said, make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, and throw away the plan. This fully free-roam game has all the jump scares you could want, combined with high-quality visuals, voice acting, cutscenes, and game mechanics that will make you truly feel like you are experiencing the situation. Even if you should be able to close the door on Springtrap, but instead you have to hide under the desk. Yeah, that part is confusing, and so are a couple others, but other than that, it's a fantastic game. It's funny when you walk into a room and then see your friend being chased by Springtrap. I mean, it's scary. Penultimately, and at 2, the worst Five Nights at Freddy's fan game. The worst Five Nights at Freddy's fan game ever is, as it suggests, the self-proclaimed worst FNAF fan game ever. Loosely based on the original FNAF game, the game itself has no plot, kind of like the original, before the others came out. It takes characters from multiple different universes and puts them together in combination with canon characters like Chica, and also terribly made original characters. The list includes Bubsy the Bobcats, Shrek the Ogre, Chica the Chicken, Slime the Slime, Dolly the poorly made doll, Mad Father, a Psycho Man, and Ouija the evil Luigi who appears when you run out of power. But sadly enough, this game, despite all the bad characteristics of it, is beat out by one game. What could this game be? How on earth could it beat out the worst Five Nights at Freddy's fan game? Well, finally, and at number 1, Five Nights at the Car. The description of the game is, hey bro, thanks for doing this job. You are a 10-year-old kid who is in his car at the mall waiting for your mom, but weird things want to kill you, so your job is to protect yourself from them. If you're hearing this, you're crazy. What? This game is so absurdly bad, it hurts me. Thanks for doing this job, we're 10 waiting in a car, what job? The game is literally just a PNG file that looks absolutely atrocious with no functionality. Don't get me wrong, I know it takes a lot to make a game, but I could make a better game than this with Scratch. This is just a cardinal sin of humanity, and it needs to be put down. Take it out to pasture. Put a bullet between the eyes. God, I hope this was a joke. It's a PNG file. Ah! It's so bad. Oh my god, it makes me mad.
And at 10, many nights at Lenny's. This is the one place that you could get a job, and being in desperate need of money, you applied and got in at a local museum, which is centered around an abandoned children's pizzeria. Armed with security cameras, a piano that will scare off any robotic intruders, and other security features, you must get through 5 nights. I feel like an infomercial. We have cameras, a piano, and many more amazing security features. So be sure you come on down to Lenny's Airbnb. I'm always watching. You're welcome. Unfortunately, this game hasn't really seen the light of day, but looking at the banner and the trailer that the creator Oni made, it shows real promise. A very Five Nights at 2 feel, with a story that involves you talking to the police, running away, and really just improving on FNAF 2 in any way it could. While it may not have seen the light of day, being published over 3 years ago and not being updated for a while, it should be completed. It could also very well be completed, and I could be totally wrong, but okay. And at 9, Those Nights at Rachel's. Those Nights at Rachel's was developed by Nixon and Smashing Renders. It takes place in a Freddy Rivals establishment known as Doug and Rachel's, where you play as a new night guard and must defend yourself against animatronics, typical FNAF gameplay. However, you're supposed to be preventing the Thing from escaping. After finishing, you get paid and promoted, but you end up suffering nightmares over the weekend. By listening to the voicemails left by the phone guy, you end up finding out terrible details of this gruesome conflict between them and Freddy's, and in all honesty, it feels like an attempt to get themselves inserted into the lore by Scott, since having a conflict with another restaurant could help them sort things out with the lore, especially now, even when this game came out in 2016. Within the lore now, the pizzeria paid Scott to make the games, therefore Doug and Rachel's could end up skewing that in their favor, or they could have been the ones who ended up paying him. In all honesty, I don't know, it could work. It could work. And at 8, Five Nights at Wario's. Five Nights at Wario's by Wario is obviously a somewhat laughable parody of FNAF, with the game using Mario characters like Mario, Luigi, Waluigi, Peach, and the title character of Mario. Using models from Brawl Box, they look like they did in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I guess the Waluigi one was made from scratch. The game contains a hidden story about why these characters are haunting this fast food factory, as well as Easter eggs and rare screens to be found. This whole game takes place in an alternate universe, Mushroom Kingdom, making them more modernized, I guess, since they have a fast food restaurant they're able to haunt. I guess they're also dead because, you know, you can't really haunt anything if you're alive. Unless you're me. In that case, my presence will ultimately haunt you for days to come. This game isn't really referenced that much in the FNAF fandom from what I saw, and it's unclear why. I remember there was a spill where YouTubers were playing this game, and this is definitely an old one coming out in 2014 and getting itself some sequels. So it's fairly impressive for a game using other franchises' characters in another franchise's scenarios.
And at 7, Five Nights at YouTube Office. Hello. Welcome to your new super job at the YouTube office. Now, there's some things you need to know. First off, there are some YouTubers who tend to wander and sleepwalking. They may try to attack you, but don't worry, they probably won't. We've been looking for someone to fill this position for a while. No one seems to want it because of the rumors that have been going around. Rumor has it some YouTubers are possessed and haunt the YouTube offices at your scheduled work time. That's specific. Also, we have given you your very own PewDiePie head. It should work on all the YouTubers except PewDiePie himself. With PewDiePie, you have to keep a music box wound up. But if you don't, he will come after you no matter what. But don't worry, just wind up the music box. Put on the PewDiePie head if you need to, and everything should be good. Piece of cake. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. That is the description this game gives you, and I had to correct some grammar. And man, this guy doesn't even know how to use periods. Ellipses don't go at the end of every sentence. But also, the game cover is just bad. Maybe it's intended to be a riff on the YouTube thumbnails, but the fact that people in this game are big YouTubers shows that the decision would have been misguided. These YouTubers have good thumbnails. All you did was take Joey Graceffa's face and then cover Freddy's with it. And then put YouTube's logo over the Freddy title and the really crappy white box that you drew with the brush tool. I could have done something better using MS Paint. I do the thumbnails for most of these videos if you didn't know.
And at 6, Five Nights at Candy's 3. Like FNAF 2, Five Nights at Candy's 3 is a prequel and the beginning of the FNAF timeline. There are 8 stars you can get in total, 1 for completing the 5 nights, 1 for knocking the origami cats, and 1 for getting the ultimate night. There are also shadow stars you can get for completing shadow challenges. There is quite a bit to do. There are also 3 challenges in total: laser pointer, my wake up music, and silent night, which seems like I'm about to be getting presents and being visited by a creep crawling down my chimney, but only the latter half is true. The game was released in 2017 2013 and was confirmed to be the final game in the series by the ending screen in FNAF 2 that's said to be concluded with a big 3, referencing that this was the finale. But perhaps there will be another, considering how this is a prequel and prequels don't typically conclude storylines when they are teased to be concluded. The game features monster animatronics as well as the other animatronics we've seen in the other 2 games. Have you played Five Nights at Candy's? Like, it's a popular fan game and I feel like it's worth a shot, but I want to know other opinions first. So let me know below. But honestly, I swear these names better get original soon. Like, at least have one called like Sometime at Harold's or something. Come on.
Number 5, Final Nights 4, Fates Entwined. Final Nights 4 is the final game in the Final Nights series. Unlike previous games in the series, the game plays like a puzzle point-and-click experience, where you adventure around the original Fredbear family diner from 2 different perspectives, one in 1973 and one in 2017 before the events of Final Nights 3. In 1973, you play as Henry Stillwater, and working together with Afton Robotics, you make a restaurant that the whole family can enjoy. However, after your night guard doesn't show up, you are forced to do the job yourself. It's only now that you see the truth behind what these robots are doing, and this has to mean something, right? One does not drop casual references to 1973 in a Five Nights at Freddy's fan game without it meaning something important. In 2017, you play as Max Donovan, a paranormal investigator who got an anonymous tip about the disappearance of none other than Henry Stillwater. You go to the abandoned Fredbear location to find out the truth, unaware of the thing rotting and restless inside.
And at 4, Sinister Turmoil, Sewers. Sinister Turmoil was intended to be a bigger game on release. However, after the game's cancellation, developer Angus WW released Sinister Turmoil Sewers, a small snippet of what the main game would have been like, with prototype Foxy, otherwise known as Mangle, being the main antagonist as you run around the sewers looking for a way through, with Mangle having a security cupcake that once it sees you, it will follow you, and if it gets close enough, it will begin screaming and sounding an alarm, which will identify your location. Underneath the abandoned Fredbear and Friends Funland, horrors lurk in the shadows. Mangle was released into the sewers and now you're locked down there with it. While navigating a series of tunnels, you need to find a way out, as well as avoiding the monster that has only one item on his agenda, killing you. The game can take anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour to complete, or more depending on how bad you are.
And at 3 is Shadow over Freddy's, a tableau FNAF game with the ability to explore the entire pizzeria. You have different objectives instead of the typical gameplay, and the whole exploration thing has gotta be inspired by that Game Lab episode of FNAF. The way you complete these nights is by completing objectives, not surviving until 6 AM. You have no power to hinder you, but you also have no time to save you. Plus, the game is in black and white, which makes it all the more terrifying. Not being able to see the colors of the animatronics means you will be questioning every single little thing about this game. Is that an animatronic or am I just seeing things? Is that delight or is that something that's gonna kill me? Did I fart or was that an animatronic? You'll never know. And where the hell is the fan? I don't know. Fan. The scariest part of this is that you're not done until you complete your objective. No biding your time, no cowering in fear, you need to move or you're gonna die. It's terrifying.
And at 2, Final Nights 3, Nightmares Awaken. I've talked about the Final Nights series before on Top 10 Scariest FNAF Animatronics Part 1. The Reaper Puppet was number 10 because, like, oh my god. Reaper Puppet is one of the main antagonists of this game, where you must defend yourself in a hospital room. Like, come on guys, is nowhere sacred? The main point of this game is to get to 6 AM, however time doesn't pass while you're awake. You need to sleep in your bed for time to pass. So you need to wake up, scare everyone away, and then go back to sleep for a while. Then wake back up and make sure they don't kill you in your sleep. The scariest animatronic in this game still has to be the Reaper Puppet because the way it crawls over the railing and the fact that you need to like confront it to scare it away is the worst. It's like a predatory animal. Like it will attack if it's comfortable, but if you approach it, it runs away. I'm pretty sure there's a predator that does that, right? It was meant to be the final game in the series, but this was changed with the release of Final Nights 4, Fates Entwined. So, there you go. Got another one. Another one. Finally, in at number 1, The Joy of Creation. I've been going this whole list thinking one thing. They need to make a fan game where you play as William Afton and play through the story. Hell, I'll even do it. Spend like a year figuring out how to make a game, and then I need to make it into a VR game because who doesn't want to kill kids in VR, right? Like that's why we got Skyrim. In all honesty, I wanted to see that happen, and I thought that's what this game was, but it's actually something far more interesting. The Joy of Creation is made by Nixon, the same game dev who made Those Nights at Rachel's, and is inspired by FNAF 4 as well as Boogeyman. In the game, you play as Scott Cawthon, who is now being attacked by his own creations after ending the series. The game started off with a survival mode but got a story mode added later on, and the story mode is by far the scarier of the two. The normal animatronics are replaced with ignited versions, and holy crap, they're nightmare fuel. Plus, playing the games gives you peace, since it's set in a different world, but this game literally takes it into our world, and actually sheds light on why Scott keeps making so many games in the series. Maybe this is why. They're threatening him.